4, 5, 6, 7. Good morning! I just wanted to include the laughter. Just show the bright cheeriness. Well, upon reading a little Aristotle this morning, I had some thoughts about Gillette's commercial and man and the purpose of man and life and all those sorts of things. Aristotle identifies happiness as the highest, most important end goal. All things, in another way of saying it, all things lead to happiness, or all things are intended to lead to happiness. A man seeks wealth for the sake of happiness. A man seeks honor for the sake of happiness. Instantly what comes to mind is that other fella, Maslow, the needs of a man, right? And obviously I'm saying man generally, as in human. Who is this man? Who man? Who is the man? Human. Alright, so yeah, we got Maslow talking about needs. The needs of man. Aristotle talks a lot about virtue. He tries to break down the purposes of life. It's very interesting how he seems to believe that happiness is bestowed and not a consequence of choice. I find that interesting. Oh boy. So let's talk about the Gillette commercial, because why not talk about old news? We like old news. Like old news. The bitterness of coffee on the mouth, the tongue. Okay. I watched lots of different video responses. I obviously watched the ad itself, and I was impressed that despite its already viral presence on YouTube, at least, and apparently every news station in America, it's still playing as an ad in YouTube videos, as a natural ad. I just find that funny. Anyway, talk about virtue signaling. We could talk about public service announcements. We could talk about political activism. We could talk about social justice awareness or social justice advocacy. There's a lot of different explanations for what happened in that video, in that advertisement, that doesn't actually advertise the product. Obviously, people did their homework. They looked up old examples of their campaigns. They had previously used that as a intended, at least it mostly indicated. They tied it along with behavior type stuff. Happy, positive story. So, here's some questions. Questions and statements. Isn't that all we do? Questions and statements anyway? I don't want to look in the camera. I'm just kidding. What is the best a man can be? So, I wanted to rehash something or just kind of clarify something I said in another one of my videos that almost no one has watched. Maybe one person. I had said this is bad. This is bad. Part of my brain just completely dumped. My brain took a big old dump. Sad. Sometimes brains dump. Stuff happens. Tell you what, guys. I'll tell you what. It's really sad. This is what, like, when you're starting to get older or whatever, you start wondering, is this like an example of dementia or Alzheimer's? I don't think it is. Why does stuff just dump from our mind? We know what we were going to say and then blip. It just completely just disappears. It's amazing. I'm gonna have to come back to that idea of the thing that I had said in a previous video that I now can't remember. In a video that very few people had watched. I thought about the number. Somehow just blinked out of my mind. Poof, gone. It's okay. It will come back to me. It was relevant. It was important. Well, if you don't remember, it probably wasn't important. Terrible phrase. Add that to my list. If you don't remember, that phrase indicates that your ability to remember modifies the existence itself, and changes truth itself based on whether or not you can remember. It gives you too much credit, simply put. what is the best a man can be? What is the best a man can get? What is the best? What is the best a man can be? What is the best man? Now I remember. I asked the question, what's the least worst thing you ever did? I asked this question in a video. We discussed it a little bit. I talked about what the least worst thing. I want to clarify. Took me a while, I know. I want to clarify what I meant by that. I argue that if you can't identify the least worst thing you've ever done, what makes you think that there is any continuum of badness? What makes you believe that there is any continuum of badness, of evil? And we're not talking about effect. That's unquestioned. Okay? We're not talking about collateral damage, potential for harm, number of people that a badness or evil might what it might result in. That's not what I'm discussing. I'm talking about I'm arguing that there is a binary. Something is either good, righteous, holy, or it is not, in a binary sense. Excuse me. I swear, man. My water thing. I'm telling you, I proved the earth is round. Right? Nobody in the world could deny what I discovered. And I'm probably not the first. I know somebody else probably said it before me. That's fine. I mean, I'm not smart. Alright, so I'm just arguing that there's a binary between good and bad. And how does that connect to the concept of what what's the best a man can be, or what's the best a man can get? What is the best a man can get? Well, let me tell you a couple of things about that ad. Men that care about the best, and don't think of narcissism, don't think of pride, don't think of greed, avarice, don't think of those things. That's not what I mean when I say care about the best. Snobby, get that out of your mind. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm talking about is something I've talked about before too. The Christianese word. You might not even be familiar with that word. That's okay. But the Christianese word is sanctification. The philosophical term for that is self-actualization. And the spiritualization of that word, or Eastern spiritualism word, would be seeking nirvana. It's been hashed out in every form of religion and philosophy for thousands of years. It's a concept that's of relevance and importance. Alright, so self-actualization, sanctification, purification, seeking of nirvana, which is a little different because that has more to do with hedonism than anything else. It has to do with I don't know. It's kind of mixed up. We'll leave that one on the side. I'm not going to highlight that. Same thing with the Luciferians out there. Those folks are seeking, they're seeking a similar thing as nirvana. It's about self-interest, and that's not necessarily, in fact, it's not at all what, that's not self-actualization or sanctification by any means. I would say that self-actualization and sanctification are very similar, in so much as self-actualization includes altruism. If it doesn't include altruism, then self-actualization looks too much like the seeking of nirvana. So, this is the basis for the concept of what's the best a man can get. It's that word. Also in terms of the best a man can be. So, you got a man that has that that's so weird. It has that on his mind. Okay? A place that cooks Southern food, and they say with God all things are possible, including fried chicken, apparently. I mean, I love the Bible, but maybe there's a time and a place where it just is a little too far of a stretch. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Self-actualization, sanctification. Here's what I am here to say. Most men that care about such things, if not all men that care about such things, they believe that complacency is like cancer. Logically, that should make perfect sense. It should make perfect sense that complacency is the evil of perpetual improvement, aka Kaizen, aka sanctification, aka self-actualization. You get the point. Maybe I will just pick one of those words. Betterment. Perpetual improvement. It's a good one too. PI. Anyway. Complacency is the enemy of this concept that I'm referring to. And men know that. And they know that laziness, although is a natural weakness because there's this sense of entitlement, of earned laziness, for lack of a better way of putting that. I think that there's a natural inclination of all people, not just men, but there's a natural inclination of all people to feel as though they have earned a place, that they have a right to something because of their efforts from something. I did this, therefore I have the right to do this because I did that. That's the sort of thing that I'm referring to. Does that exist? Well, absolutely it does. I can sit around and play a video game because I put in my 40. And I did this and this and this. So I can do this. I can spend unknown dollars on hunting or sports or whatever because I give you what you need. I already paid for all this other stuff, so I can blow money over here because I earned it. I deserve this. I earned this. Well, is that bad? Inherently bad? To do something because you believe you've earned it? No. I'm not going to argue that. There are lots of guys out there that would actually say that they would prefer to do that thing that they enjoy doing all of the time. But any thinking man knows that's not how life works. Any thinking man knows that life is more complicated than pleasure as an end, than happiness as an end. Adversity, strife, struggle, very, very, very difficult to understand happiness without those aforementioned words. They're connected. I many times thought, what was the experience before the knowledge of good and evil? What was the emotional experience? What was the emotional range? What was pleasure? What was pain? Granted, there may have been no thorns. Was the grass or ground or whatever, was it mossy? Was it grassy in the garden? Were there no rocks? Was there nothing to stub your toe on? Could you not fall down? My nose is so itchy. It just happens sometimes. Was there no ability to fall down? I don't know. Thought about this before. Well, how does this all connect? What is the best a man can be, and what is the best a man can get or have? Well, the best a man can be probably has no limit, and therefore is difficult to identify. It's difficult to identify because there is no limit. So what I mean by that is hard working the part of the best a man can be. Hard working. puts in a significant amount of effort into the work that he does, no matter what that work is. Whether it's swinging a hammer or shifting a pin from side to side and up and down in different angles and directions. Whether or not it's jiggling his fingers on a keyboard. Whether it's presenting himself in front of others tirelessly and with great effort, does he study and make himself presentable. Whatever that work may be, is the best a man can be and do, is hard work part of that bestness? Okay. Is hard work part of the best a man can be? Some of these might be obvious. Some might not. Think about it. Okay. Bravery. Courageousness. Is that part of the best a man can be? And when a man is not hardworking and he puts very little effort into the things that he does, is that ever seen as advantageous? Is that ever seen as the best a man can be? A man that puts very little effort into what he does. Think about it. This is philosophy. This is logic. Just think about it. A man that is a coward, a man that avoids all conflict, a man that avoids challenge, a man that runs in any form of danger and refuses to protect anything or anyone except for himself. Is that the best a man can be? Well, how many different ways can you look at it, guys? What else? What makes the best man? Got to be practical in a lot of ways. Why? With this? Right there. What is that about? Right there. Just, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It's very strange. A man that seeks his own desires or advocates for the desires of others. If a man sacrifices all of his own needs for the sake of others, is that the best a man can be? Don't answer quickly. Work it out to its logical conclusion. A man that provides for himself and the needs of others, is that the best a man can be? A man that's independent, never took time, isn't directly responsible for anybody else, but only took care of himself, is he still potentially the best a man could be? Because he did take care of himself. Again, don't answer quickly. Work this stuff out. Try to bring it to its logical conclusion. What's the best a man can be? What is the best a man can be? So when we ask this question, what's the best a man can be? It's supposed to make you think, well, do we have any good examples of the best men? There are lots of examples. Some folks could argue against I think that there are some of the most obvious answers would be the best man that ever was would be Jesus. Some people could philosophically or logically argue that that's not the best that a man could be. Somebody could potentially argue that. At least in as much that we can't reproduce the life of Jesus. No one can reproduce his life perfectly. And as a result, it's not a practical example. I get that. Makes sense. That doesn't mean that we can't use examples. What is happening? Why is there such extreme traffic? I saw nothing. So weird. Anyway. There I am. Interrupted again. So much interruption. So there are elements that can be used, that's all I'm saying, as examples. So a man that teaches others the truth. Keep these concepts as simple as possible. Man that teaches others the truth. Could this be part of the best a man could be? The traffic is so unreal. Going the other direction. Just amazing. Amazing. A man that's willing to speak the truth, even if it's offensive. Is that the best a man can be? A man that is broken hearted and experiences great compassion for and empathy. The widows and orphans, categorically. Children, widows, orphans. What does this mean? What do orphans and widows have in common? Pain. And something else, practically speaking, is widows and orphans have an instability and lack of provision by the system that they no longer belong to, the family unit. broken family unit when there is an orphan or when there is a widow. What was once part of the system is no longer it's just broken. It's changed. What is the best a man can be? Why is it so controversial, my friends? Yeah, I see you rolling. Why is it so controversial to ask men to be the best that they can be? In fact, wasn't it an Army commercial years ago? Be the best you can be. To seek excellence. Wasn't that a military commercial of some kind? Seeking excellence. So here's some irony. The same people that the 1.1, probably 1.2 or 3 or who knows how many at this point, thumbs downs for the Gillette commercial. These same people that are thumbs downing that commercial are pretty much the same people that believe, that hold relatively conservative views, believe the whole hate speech argument is ridiculous, so on and so on. There's an irony here, though. There's an irony. It's all mixed up. It's all mixed up. There's just assumptions. There's lots of assumptions. What do we do with others' assumptions? When somebody assumes that you're one thing that you are not, what do you do about it? Somebody could look at me and be like, oh, look at those Doc Martens. I know how much those were. Oh, my Doc Martens that are 2 years old and I had to super glue together the other day. Those Doc Martens? Assumptions. Oh, but look at that fancy tie that I don't have on right now, but hypothetically. And those pants and stuff. Oh, this tie, this 20-year-old tie that I've had, I mean, that's really? You look at a person and you think you know. Think you know. But you don't know. You don't have perfect wisdom. You don't have perfect knowledge of context. Lots of assumptions happen. Lots of assumptions. You know why assumptions exist? Laziness. Laziness is not the best a man can be. Working hard, that's good. Doing the right thing because you're supposed to, Doing the right thing because you want to make others think good things about you, Doing the right thing because it'll help others. Eh. Well, gosh, why do the right thing then? What's left? It's not just about how it benefits you. It's not just about how it benefits humanity. Those may be good things. They're not enough. Could almost break it down in such a way to say doing the right thing because you can. Doing the right thing because you can. You usually can't, though, unless you have special provision. One such provision is called common grace. Look it up. Another such provision is potentially the Holy Spirit. Some of you may be aware of such a thing. Some of you, that concept is baffling to you. Working hard, providing for others, advocating for others, protecting others. These are all good things. What's the best a man can be? Well, may or may not need. The best a man can be may not require gender-specific answers. May or may not. I think the list is vastly generalizable. Able to be generalized. The massive majority of components that make the best are able to be generalized out for females as well. Learning the difference between love and respect, that is probably crucially important to distinguishing the difference between men and women. Why men are asked to love and why women are asked to respect probably indicates that there is a natural deficit of those components within the heart and mind of the fallen man and the fallen woman. Those are naturally difficult procedures, and therefore we are asked to do what is difficult or potentially impossible without aid. What is the best a man can be? What is the best a man can get? If the answer isn't blatantly obvious in your mind, I'm sorry. Sorry for you. Because my argument would be the best a man can be is one who honors God. That's the best a man can be. Not one that panders to nonsense others, the wants and desires of people on this planet. The man who honors God is the best a man can be. There is no better answer. It is the answer. What is the best a man can be? The man who honors God. Can he do it by himself? Absolutely he cannot. That was the point of the law. If you didn't know that, there you go. The point of the law was to help individuals discover that they could not follow the law. Well, then why was it provided? I just told you why it was provided. Why was there a law if everybody couldn't follow it? Because there is a lesson in the law that teaches that you need the lawgiver in order to uphold the law. You need the law itself within you. You need the law to become part of you. Who is the law? Who is the Logos? Who is the Word? Who is the Torah? Who is the Word, guys? Who was in the beginning that was called the Word? Anarche and Halagos. I just went to a completely different level there for some of you. I apologize. Little too much. My pronunciation's probably off just because I don't have special revelation of a dialect that's over. It's probably been gone for 1,700 years at least. The way that sounds is, who knows. But close. Maybe they would understand it if I was talking to somebody from 2,000 years ago. Anarche and Halagos. Proston theon. But anyway, the Word, guys, the law, the Torah that was in the beginning, that was God Himself. That's what makes a man the best. The best man is the man who honors God. Who did that the best? Obviously, the answer is Jesus. No man honored God better than Jesus. It's unquestioned. Is it doubted by many? Of course it is. But hypothetically, if all things were true, then that would be the truest. It does completely set the standard. Absolutely it does. Is it a standard of which we could meet upon our own desire or will or efforts? No, it is not. And as we can learn, the efforts of teaching others will not render perfect results. A perfect teacher does not render perfect students. I'll repeat it. A perfect teacher does not provide even an opportunity for perfect students. But a perfect teacher absolutely does not result in perfect students. It doesn't work that way. We have evidence. Judas, the betrayer. He had a perfect teacher. He was not a perfect result. Not by our definition of perfect. Anyway, I'm going to mark today as the itchiest tip of my nose day in the history of my life. I have no idea. No clues. No clues at all. What's the best a man can get? Well, gosh. The best a man can get, the love of God. There's no greater thing that you could have. Well, is that something we all have access to? Yep. Is it a choice? Is it an opportunity only made to few or to all? Well, then you can get into the discussion of what about those who have not heard, that do not know? And you get into discussion of special revelation and those sorts of things. natural revelation. That's not what this topic's about today, guys. I'll talk about that sometime. But what I'm talking about is the best a man can be is the man who honors God. The best a man can get, the love of his Creator. Simple answer. How is your life going to reflect those simple truths? That is the pragmatic question that is necessary. As woke as some progressives or conservatives or whomever may try to be, there's nothing more basic than what I just said, guys. It is simple. It is basic. How can your life and your decisions reflect those simple truths?